This is Co-op HD1 HD3 Hornsby, radio for people, not for profit. Welcome to Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show. Each week, we explore how your library is more than books. The library is knowledge, technology, and inspiration for our community. Hello, welcome. I'm your host, Kanya Lyons, and today we're going to talk about writing, traveling, art, and libraries with Chris Chiarchiaro, who works at the Yarborough branch. She considers herself a quasi-librarian, a former educator, amateur artist writer, wannabe world traveler, and constant observer. But her official job title is administrative senior. Welcome, Chris.
Hi.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I'm glad I was able to coax you and into actually being here and get over that shyness a little bit.
Maybe only a little bit. But you can't see the nerves, right? So
no, you can't even hear them. So where do you hail from?
So I am originally from the tri-state area. That's what I like to say, so I don't have to say I'm from New Jersey.
Good one.
But born in New York, raised in New Jersey. I spent some time living in Philadelphia. And I've family all up and down basically the East Coast. So that's sort of my home base.
Nice.
When I go home for the holidays, that's where I have to head.
And they're listening right now, so you want to say hi, Mom?
I assume they're listening. I didn't want anybody to be mad that I didn't say I was on the radio, so I went ahead and told everybody. So.
All right. All up and down the coast.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So how did you end up here in this lovely city in Austin, Texas?
I have the same answer many people have. I hate the cold, so I wanted to move somewhere warm. I definitely got what I wanted. Warm is an understatement. It is definitely hot in Texas, but I still prefer that to bundling up, especially because I like traveling by public transportation, walking, and things like that. So that is very difficult to do in the wind and the snow and a lot of rain and things like that. So I still would rather do that in the humidity and 100-degree heat. Call me crazy, but I do like it that way.
I feel you. I'm right there with you, girl. I'm definitely, yeah. I don't know how I could survive in one of those northern cold places.
I barely did, but I made it out.
So how long have you been in Austin then?
That's a little bit of a complicated question. I originally moved to Austin, I think it's 16, 17 years ago.
Oh.
And I loved it. I didn't leave because I didn't love it, but life circumstances took me back to the East Coast for a little while. And the minute it was like time to do something else again, it's like, well, look for a job anywhere or go back what for me is now home, Austin. So I did that. And so originally it was a couple of years, like maybe 3 years, left. And now I've been back for 6 years.
Oh, cool. So I've left and come back a few times over the course of living in Austin. And so I find that when I come back, I don't always have the same friends. Like I'll reconnect with some of the same people, but then you make new friends or some of the people that you were, I don't know. What was your experience with that?
It's a little bit that way. Fortunately, I made pretty strong connections in the short time that I was here the first time. One of those people led to the job, actually, with Austin Public Library.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
So tell us the story, your origin story with the Austin Public Library.
So the first time I was living here, I was working at the school for the blind and visually impaired.
I worked there, too, a long time ago.
Yeah, and I was working with a woman who I met her husband, and he actually pretty regularly gave me rides to work when he would be picking her up. So I actually got to know him just as much as I did her. And he works for the library. He was a long-time person with the library. David, that you may know, he works downtown. And so when I came back, and I had done a few stints in bookstores, he was like, are you interested in working for the library? And like, I don't know why it had never occurred to me. I love the library and I've worked bookstores. So, and I was like, yeah, is that an easy thing to do? And so he, of course, set me on the path of how you do that.
Is it an easy thing to do? No, I'm just kidding.
As it turns out, not necessarily, but with my background, it wasn't that difficult to transition to make.
Yeah, most of the people that end up working at the library are usually like people who have big hearts and care a lot about, people and literature and reading and stuff. But
it is helpful to enjoy entertainment, books, movies, music that I can share with people. But it definitely also helped that I had a long history of working with communities and individuals, because yes, it's really just about finding a way to connect to that person and what it is that they're looking for. So sometimes it's not a book or a piece of music or something, it's how to use the computers, or even how do I register to vote or something like that. And so yeah, my background in working with people in all different ways has definitely helped me at the library.
Awesome. So for those of you who are just joining in, this is Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show on Co-op 91.7 FM. We're also streaming at koop.org, and we have details about this show online at library.austintexas.gov/volumes. And we're hanging out talking with Chris Chiarchiaro, who works at the Yarborough branch, and she's talking about her experience working in libraries, and it is a lot of customer service, a lot of people stuff, people information, and I mean, there's a lot of things swirling around in the library verse. But so you've used the informal title of quasi-librarian, and I want you to unpack that for me.
Well, I respect the degree that is earned by people. I am not one of those people. I have an undergraduate degree. It's in psychology, and that has helped me working in the library world.
I bet a lot, right?
A lot. But I do respect that there are people who've earned it, and many of them have to work their way up. So they're working alongside me, and I love going to them for their expertise. So I don't love the idea of just calling myself a librarian because I work in a library. And then saying library worker just sounds a little funny sometimes. So I don't know, I came up with this way of sort of saying it because there are a lot of people that do encourage me to say librarian because of how many things you are responsible for doing when you are working at a circulation desk. So there are people who want to give library workers their pat on the back, and so I don't know, I just sort of had to come up with something that felt right, and that's what it was for me.
I personally really like it because I'm one of those people who's a library lover, and I have great respect, like you said, for librarianship and people who actually study to become librarians. But I think that so many of the people that work in the library are doing the good work of a quasi-librarian. It's the perfect thing. So you mentioned earlier, you kind of alluded to your background, your work background. So let's talk a little bit about that. You worked in as an educator with children who had developmental delays and stuff like that.
Yeah, I besides the work at the Texas School for the Blind and Visually Impaired, I worked for many years with kids with all different delays. Started out working at a center, kids with autism, and then through Easter Seals, kids with all different kinds of delays. And I'm one of those rare people who loves preschoolers. You either have to really love that age. You really have to love that age group to do that, and I do. So I love just helping them get to a place where they can enter school alongside their peers. So everything from children who are born premature and are not necessarily identified with anything in particular, but we just want to see that they get on the right path. And so I would go in and use what we call like a play-based learning environment and activities, and just to get them reaching those milestones that parents will probably be familiar with hearing, oh, has my kid reached these milestones? And that's what we're looking to do.
Awesome. Well, I want to talk a little more about that, but we're going to take a short break. We're actually going to listen to an audio clip from one of the library's podcasts, and this is featuring Ellie Frances Douglas, and she's reading 2 of her original poems out loud, and this was part of the oral literature series, which happens at the Terrazas branch every month. And there's information, of course, about that on the line. But we're going to listen to this clip now.
Sounds great.
And we'll get back to Chris after that.
I'm Ellie Frances Douglas. I'm a San Antonio poet, and I'm going to be reading 2 poems from a collection of poems that I wrote for my dad. I wrote this collection after my dad passed away from cancer over 6 years ago now. And these poems are sort of written to him, chronicling my grief. So I'm going to read 2 of those poems today. Distance. You lifted the oxygen mask from your face to say, "Don't be sad too long." But my mind lingered in the hospital. Every room became that room. You, yellow and shiny as a wooden chair, materialized in the corner. Those blue eyes, invaded by fog, fixed on me. Looking into your eyes was like riding an airplane through a cloud I knew would never end. I'm going to read one more poem, and this is a poem that I feel like it's sort of its sibling poem. They just feel connected to me, but it was written many years later, probably 3 or 4 years later. It's called At Least for a Little While. I dream that I am grocery shopping alone when I find you, wearing that blue shirt I sleep in sometimes now. We grip each other's arms and laugh. Meeting like this after years, we say, what are the odds? You walk with me and listen as I talk and push my cart. I tell you that I keep the mountain man you sculpted as a boy on my desk, that I look into its eyes when my mind is a clean sink. You smile and nod, but you turn a corner just before me and are gone. I go through each aisle, calling. I ditch my cart and walk faster through those I have already checked again and again. When I think of you now, I see a breathing body. Isn't that progress? Why can't I keep you, at least in my own mind, at least for a little while?
My name is Blair Parsons, and I'm a reference librarian at the Central Library. Each week I highlight a few programs for adults that are happening around the Austin Public Library. Our full list of programs may be found on the library's events calendar. National Novel Writing Month, or NaNoWriMo, inspires novelists to begin their book each November. At the Central Library tonight, November 15th, at 6 o'clock, local authors will lead writing workshops focused on character development. The plot workshop for adults will be in the 4th floor reading room, and the plot workshop for teens will be in the 3rd floor youth and family atrium. The workshops begin at 6 o'clock tonight, November 15th, at the Central Library. Tomorrow night, Thursday, November 16th, the Windsor Park Nightcrafters program will host Maureen Mahoney. Maureen will lead a workshop on using recycled books and top-secret painting mixtures to make scratch-off leaves. Nightcrafters with Maureen Mahoney begins at 6:30 p.m. tomorrow, November 16th, at the Windsor Park Branch Library.
Hey there, Austin. Teen Program Specialist Michael Harley from the Downtown Central Library here. This month, I'll be telling you all about the programming going on at the new Central Library, located off of 710 West Cesar Chavez Street. This week, with school out for Thanksgiving, we're hosting a special movie series in the Central Library's teen area. Starting on Monday, November 20th, and running through Wednesday, November 22nd, the teen area will be screening 3 new titles. On Monday, November 20th, we'll kick things off with a trip back to the wizarding world of Harry Potter, with Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Then on Tuesday, November 21st, we'll blast off to a galaxy far, far away with Star Wars: The Force Awakens. And finally, on Wednesday, November 22nd, Wonder Woman will fly in to save the day. All movies will be showing from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. in the Central Library's teen area. This event is exclusively for ages 13 to 18. More details for these and additional programs can be found at library.austintexas.gov/events.
This is Ann Minner, Managing Librarian at the Old Quarry Branch. Here are a few Austin Public Library events happening for children this week. The Contemporary Austin presents Glowing Aliens. This special program, based on the book Your Alien by Tammy Sauer, is for little space cadets. Sculpt a mini extraterrestrial that really glows. Thursday, November 16th at 11 a.m. at the Manchac Road Branch. Friday movie matinee, Nightmare Before Christmas. Jack Skellington tries to bring the magic of Christmas to Halloween Town and kidnaps Santa. This animated feature is full of creepy holiday giggles. Friday, November 17th at 3:30 p.m. at the Old Quarry Branch. Bow Wow Reading with Bonnie the Dog. Read to Bonnie, a certified Austin Dog Alliance therapy dog. Bonnie's Human will be there too. Saturday, November 18th at 11:30 a.m. at the Yarborough Branch. And of course, our story times for kids of all ages and abilities continue through December 1st. Details and additional dates for these special programs are at library.austintexas.gov/events.
The Financial Literacy Coalition of Central Texas improves our community's prosperity by giving Central Texans the knowledge and skills they need to make good financial decisions. We are a trusted, unbiased, and credible source of personal money handling information. We teach subjects such as budgeting, savings, and maintaining good credit. If you believe that a prosperous community benefits everybody, support the Financial Literacy Coalition by going to our website, www.flcct.org.
You're listening to Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show on Co-op 91.7 FM and KOOP.org. Radio for people, not for profit.
This is Joe,
Martha,
and Lisa,
co-hosts of Writing on the Air.
Do you like to read?
Do you like to write?
We do too, and we love bringing you the best authors and other creative types from Texas and beyond.
Listen to Writing on the Air every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Central Time.
Voted Best Book Discussion in the Austin Chronicle's 2015 Best of Austin.
Wednesday at 6 o'clock p.m.
on 91.7 FM
or KOOP.org.
Hey, welcome back, listeners. Before those announcements, we were listening to an audio clip that featured Ellie Francis Douglas reading two of her original poems out loud for the library audience. And we have a ton of original content just like that on our podcast. And the details are online at library.austintexas.gov/volumes. So now we're going to get back into this conversation we're having with Chris Chiarchiaro, who works her little magic over at the Yarborough branch these days. And right before the break, she started telling me, we were talking a little bit about her background as an educator. And you mentioned that you actually have gotten to hear Temple Grandin speak a couple of times. That wasn't mentioned on the air, but I wanted to talk about that. What was that like? Like, how was that impactful?
It's a little bit like you would expect. She's if you've ever heard or seen anything of her, you would. It's pretty much what you expect. But it's also, and seeing her speak was for conferences, things like that. Continuing education, I would be doing for my work with in early education or with kids with special needs. So she's amazing. She's just genuinely herself. She makes no excuses. But she's also very good at explaining her own point of view. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure everyone can do that.
Right.
We know everyone has this sort of unique point of view, but getting other people to understand what that is that's happening in our own head and explaining it to others can be difficult. And she's really amazing at it, and it's helped the whole world of educators understand people with autism a lot more, and so it was a really valuable experience. And I to this day take things that I heard her say and will repeat it in trainings or things like that because they're very inspiring.
I'm super inspired by her, and I've never seen her live in person or speaking other than on video. But I can imagine. So it must have been really informative to sort of like, because you're working with, preschool kids who can't articulate what's going on in their brain, and then seeing this, incredible woman explain exactly what's going on in her brain.
Right.
So you're kind of getting both ends. So it helped you fill in the how to get from one end to the other, right?
It does. And she's, of course, very careful to say, not everyone's experience is going to turn out the way hers did. But she's also very clear about things that helped her along the way, which again was things that helped us as educators, or if the audience was also parents. The things that helped her connect with what it was happening in her brain and how she was able to use those to her advantage. And so it's a reminder to be yourself, to find things that you love, that you can do, that you are good at, and how to foster those things. Yeah. And that her mother fostered those in her as well.
Yes.
She had other people in her life who valued what she had to say. And that those are inspirational things all the time.
And we have a bunch of her books at the library, just saying, in our collection. I'll just throw that out there.
Just throwing that out there, yeah.
Library.austintexas.gov. There's all kinds of interesting Temple-granted books.
Yeah. My copies have signatures, of course.
Oh, girl!
But my shrinking library at home, because I have a very small apartment, and I will never get rid of those.
Nice. So I've shrunk my library down too. I like to just borrow from the library and just fill my shelf with that temporarily, and then rotate them out. But yeah, there's a handful that you're like, nope, these are mine forever.
Yes, exactly.
Well, so I want to talk about your blogging at the library. But before we get into that, I'm loving this tattoo of that you have. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I think that people probably think I roll the sleeves up on my shirts because I want to show off the tattoo. It's not really the case. It's a nice benefit for me.
So it's a fountain pen, right?
It is a fountain pen, and I actually was inspired by the blogging that I was doing. That I've been a writer my whole life. Since I was little, I like to write stories. I'm sure there's many people out there who can say that, parents who can say that about their kids. Oh, she loved to write. I became very intimidated once I met people that I thought wrote really well. When I started reading real literature, the first time you read To Kill a Mockingbird, you're like, I can not write something like that. I'm never going to be able to write like that. So I kind of gave it up. And then I started working for the library, and somebody suggested blogging because they knew I liked to write in my spare time, and they wanted a different voice out there. And I bravely somehow said, okay, I guess I can give it a shot. And it became something I really loved, a huge part of why I love my job, because, again, I get to connect resources to people out there by putting them this time in my blog. I tend to also put in little bits of personal things, but that's how I've always written. I've always written from a very personal place. So it's a fountain pen. It reminds me every day I'm brushing my teeth and I see that pen, and it reminds me to keep writing,
Nice.
Even the things I don't end up sharing. But it is somewhat therapeutic, and it's something makes me feel good about myself. So I have to just keep doing that.
Yes, and that's the only way to get good at anything is
well,
to just do
that's
it
right.
and do it and do it.
Of course, a shout out to my niece who designed it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, she's a young artist herself, so I asked her to draw that for me. And
that's even more special.
Yeah, and then we went together, and she was with me when I got it. So.
Oh, cool. Wow. Well, so you mentioned, that your writing is very personal, and I have to say that's one of the things that I really enjoy when I read your blogs is the storytelling, the personal stuff. So you're doing a series right now called "What's Your Story?"
Right.
And can you talk a little bit about these sort of storytelling essays and where the inspiration for that is coming from?
That was actually inspired by a program which is something I do sometimes when I don't have an idea for a blog. I'll just go through what programs the library has coming up, and with enough time to actually write it. and I've during the summer programming, there was a series called "What's Your Story," and it was inviting the community to come in and do sort of like 5-minute oral told stories. And I wanted to write about that. So instead of just this program,
Right.
like what else do I put in this blog? So I started looking into oral storytelling, and that became the first one. But while I was looking into that, I realized there's many other ways you can tell stories. And I thought, well, I've never done a blog series, but maybe this one is one of those ones I can make into that. And well, now I can't seem to stop. I keep coming up with another way that you can tell stories that I want to write a blog about. So one actually posted today, and I'm sure I've got at least 3 more ideas. So really the inspiration was a library program, and I keep finding ways to connect it to library resources.
It's really cool. It's really inspiring. So for people that are just now joining us, this is Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show on Co-op 91.7 FM, and we're also streaming at koop.org. And there are details about this show on the library's website at library.austintexas.gov/volumes. And we're talking with Chris Chiarchiaro, who works over at the Yarborough branch. And so we just got through talking about your storytelling blog series, which is active right now. You said you just, one was just published on the library's website today. Can't wait to go back and read that. So what other kinds of things do you enjoy blogging about, or have you blogged about for the library?
Well, again, because I'm writing from such a personal place, I usually find something in my personal life that I want to write about, but that also somehow connects to the library. So I've written about like arts or crafts that I have done. I have written about things I've enjoyed reading or watching. But again, it just seems to keep coming back to programming. I'm one of those participants you usually see at the library programs. I don't just work for the library. I love going to the programs. So
That's awesome.
It's very easy to be inspired when I'm scrolling through the events and I see that there's something art-based going on. Well, I want to go to that. Oh, I should encourage other people to go to that. Oh, well, I'll write a blog about it. It just seems a natural way for things to happen.
We are out of time, unfortunately. I could talk to you for a lot longer. So, but real quick before we go, do you want to give a shout out to any of the other bloggers that you like reading?
Oh, sure. I love to read Adrian's blogs. He has a Guess the Cover series that I think is really fun. And one of our reference librarians, Dean, writes about a ton of different things, and I love to do that.
I've caught several of those.
Yes.
They're always interesting.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again so much for coming in and sharing your stories with us, and we'll have to have you back another time, Chris. There's obviously more to talk about.
You'll have to rope me in somehow. I don't know.
Bribery.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, listeners. We appreciate y'all being here, and thanks to Chris for taking time to come out, and thanks to our media and communications volunteer, Federico Pacheco. Stay tuned to 91.7 FM for Rock and Roll Pest Control, which is high-octane rock, metal, and punk music. Thanks for listening to Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show. Special thanks to our producer, DJ Harris, and to the musicians who composed and performed our original theme song, Andrew Noble on violin, Kirk Duvall on guitar, and Mike Wheat on percussion. And thanks to you, our listeners. Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show, airs Wednesday afternoons at 2:30 on Co-op 91.7 FM and koop.org. If you catch us mid-show, full episodes and other details can be found at library.austintexas.gov/volumes.